So I decided I would give you guys a video response on Simon Sinek, Millennials in the Workplace, and I'll just watch it and give you my feedback as I go. And I already pre-watched it, and I do agree with some of his points, but on other points I disagree, considering I'm a millennial myself. I mean, I am a hard-working individual. I don't feel entitled whatsoever, but I'll give you my feedback as I watch it with you here. I just think it's kind of better to give
What's
feedback
the millennial thing?
as the
Apparently,
video plays.
millennials as a generation, which is a group of people who were born approximately 1984 and after, are tough to manage. And they're accused of being entitled and narcissistic and self-interested, unfocused, lazy. But entitled is the big one. And because they confound leadership so much, what's
And, I do agree with him when he says,
happening is leaders are asking the millennials,
people are
what do you
entitled
want?
and that
And millennials are saying, we want to
they're
work
lazy.
in a
I've worked with
place
plenty of people that are
focus,
lazy.
love that.
And actually, it just kind of annoyed me to the point where I'd either leave the job or just
we
move
want
to
free
another
food
job.
and beanbags. And so somebody articulates some sort of purpose, there's lots of free food and there's beanbags, and yet for some reason they're still not happy. And that's because they're missing, there's a missing piece.
And a
What
lot of
I've
people
learned
aren't
is that
happy in the
I can break it
workplace.
down into four pieces, right? There are four characteristics. One is parenting, the other one is technology, the third is impatience, and the fourth is environment. The generation that we call the millennials, too many of them grew up
Probably most of us millennials.
subject to, not my words, failed parenting strategies, where, for example, they were told that they were special all the time. They were told that they could have anything they want in life, just because they want it. Right?
This does
They
not
were
apply to me
told,
whatsoever. I
some of them
don't
got
agree
into
with this point.
honors classes not because they deserved it, but because their parents complained. And some of them got A's not because they earned them, but because the teachers didn't want to deal with the parents. Some kids got participation medals. You got a medal for coming in last, right?
I remember
the science we know is pretty
participation
clear, which is it
trophies
devalues
in high
people
school,
for those who actually work hard, and that actually makes the person who comes in last feel embarrassed
elementary school.
because they know they didn't deserve it, so it actually makes them feel worse, right? So you take this group of people, and they graduate school, and they get a job, and they're thrust into the real world, and in an instant, they find out they're not special, their moms can't get them a promotion, that you get nothing for coming in last, and by the way, you can't just have it because you want it,
True.
right? And in an instant, their entire self-image is shattered. And so you have an entire generation that's growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. The other problem, to compound it, is we're growing up in a Facebook, Instagram world. In other words, we're good at putting filters on things. We're good at showing people that life is amazing even though I'm depressed, right?
And I'll pause it on that point. And that's a horrible thing about Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all those social media platforms. They all apply filters and they censor things. And like he says, even though you're super depressed, you're supposed to get online and see that life is perfectly fine. And that's really not the case.
And so everybody sounds tough, and everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is there's very little toughness, and most people don't have it figured out. And so when the senior people say, well, what should we do? They sound like, this is what you got to do. And they have no clue. Right?
I can't tell you like how
So
many
you have an entire
times that I've
generation
actually
growing up with
told
lower
somebody I'm
self-esteem
not that
than
senior, like how to do something, and they've
through no fault of their
looked
own.
at me and I
Through
thought
no
it was
fault of
very
their own.
simple, and
Right?
they've
They
needed
dealt
a
bad
lot more
hand,
help on
right? Now,
how to
let's
exactly
add
do what I
in
just said, even though
we
it
know
should be
that
super simple for
engagement
you.
with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good, right? So we've all had it where you're feeling a little bit down or feeling a bit lonely, and so you send out 10 texts to 10 friends. Hi, 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 because it feels good when you get a response, right? Right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is growing slower. Did I do something wrong?
I don't worry about any of that.
The trauma for young kids to be unfriended, right? Because we know when you get it, you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it. Dopamine is the
Agreed.
exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and
Agreed.
when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive, right? We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, and alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet.
Totally agree with
and
this
saying to our
point,
teenagers,
100%.
Hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down. But that's basically what's happening. That's basically what's happening, right? That's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. Why is this important? Almost every alcoholic discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. And as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our peers. Very frustrating for our parents, very important for us. It allows us to acculturate outside of our immediate families into the broader tribe, right? It's a highly, highly stressful and anxious period of our lives, and we're supposed to learn to rely on our friends. Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and numbing effects of dopamine to help them cope with the stresses and anxieties of adolescence. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, when they suffer significant stress, they will not turn to a person, they will turn to the bottle. Social stress, financial stress, career stress, that's pretty much the primary reasons why an alcoholic drinks, right? What's happening is because we're allowing unfettered access to...
And I think we all have our stresses and we all have our vices or our crutches that we go to help us release that dopamine, to help us feel better.
Don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Their words, not mine. They will admit that many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that their friends, that they don't count on their friends, they don't rely on their friends, they have fun with their friends, but they also know that their friends will cancel on them if something better comes along. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice.
That's very true for most
and worse,
millennials.
They don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device. They're turning to
and I think we're all guilty of that.
They're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people
Even
who spend
I'm guilty
more time
of
on
that.
Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook. Right? These things balance. Alcohol is not bad, too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun, too much gambling is dangerous. Right? There's nothing wrong with social media and cell phones. It's the imbalance. Right? If you're sitting at dinner with your friends and you're texting somebody who's not there, that's
Hate that.
That's
Hate
an
when
addiction.
people do
If
that.
you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you
Wholeheartedly
cannot put
agree
it
with
away
that.
is because you are addicted. Right? If you wake up and you check your phone before you say good morning to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, you have an addiction. And like all addiction, in time, it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse. Right? So you have a generation growing up with lower self-esteem that doesn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. Right? Now you add in the sense of impatience. Right? They've grown up in a world of instant gratification. You want to buy something, you go on Amazon, it arrives the next day. You want to watch a movie? Log on and watch a movie. You don't check movie times. You want to watch a TV show? Binge. You don't even have to wait week to week to week. Right? I know people who skip seasons just so they can binge at the end of the season. Right? Instant gratification. You want to go on a date? You don't even have to learn how to be like, hey. You don't even
Goes
have
to
to
talk
learn
about
and practice
Tinder.
that skill. You don't have to
So
be
many
the
people
uncomfortable
have
one
that.
who says yes when you mean no and says no when you mean no and yes when you don't have to swipe right. Bang, I'm a stud. Right? You don't have to learn the social